And you're listening to Brisbane Line on 4ZZZ 102.1 FM, and I'm Elliot Rifkin with Tony Pankaluic. So we now have our Brisbane Line live chat discussion. Many of us are obviously aware of Western healthcare system. Some of us use naturopath medicine, and some of us are even aware of the existence of Chinese herbalists. However, do you know anything on India's centuries-old Ayurvedic medicine system, which is 80% of Indian population takes part in? Joining us to chat about this traditional Indian medicine, Ayurvedic principles, is Dr. Deepika Kaushal, an Ayurvedic doctor from the Ayurvedic Wellness Center. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me here today, and I'm really excited to share my knowledge about Ayurveda.
It's great, because I honestly know nothing. So before we start talking about it, you're with the Ayurvedic Wellness Center. That's in Sydney. What is that?
That's correct. So the Ayurvedic Wellness Center was actually founded 2011 here in Sydney and works towards giving authentic experience of true Ayurveda here. Our goal here basically is to give authentic experience and provide balance for each of our clients and educate the wider community about the principles of Ayurveda.
You've mentioned about your wellness center. What is Ayurveda medicine?
So Ayurveda actually is the world's oldest health system, which originated in ancient India about 5,000 years ago. And Ayurveda essentially is made up of two words, which are Sanskrit words, Ayu and Veda. And Ayu means life and Veda means science or knowledge. So it's literally the science of life. And it gives us different tools and practices that we can use on a daily basis to tap into our own healing ability that we all have within us. And not just like us as individuals, but Ayurveda also actually is the science of living in tune with the nature's law. So it's a holistic approach to well-being by giving balance to our mind, body, and spirit so we can experience a state of wholeness.
And as I mentioned, I really know nothing about this, and there's so much actually to talk about. Hopefully we can get people to understand a lot of the principles and some of the history and how it sits in with things. That said, not that it's a perfect place to consult, but I did consult Wikipedia, and it said that it was based on some of the teachings of Chanvantara, a Hindi god of Ayurveda. So can you tell us a little bit about that god, how long it's been practiced in India, because I know it's a couple of thousand years.
That's correct. So actually every household in India follows Ayurveda in one way or the other. And when I talk about the history of Ayurveda, it actually dates back to approximately 5,000 years, like I just mentioned. And it is a preventative and curative system of medicine. And this was actually given to Lord Dhanvantari, who was the practitioner for gods. And he received this knowledge from Brahma, who is the creator of this world in Hindu mythology. And through his disciples and various sages, this knowledge was passed down and was written in Vedas, which is Hindu scriptures. And all of that knowledge about Ayurveda is there for us to tap into.
And how does Ayurveda culturally mix with ancient philosophy?
So Ayurveda actually has the philosophy which believes that we are one with the universe and blending between a balance of mind, body, and spirit, as I have mentioned. So essentially, you can't just have like your physical body and everything is fine there. But if you're not mentally in a balanced state, it essentially affects all three, which is your mind, body, and spirit. So the goal of Ayurveda is standing on that philosophy, which is followed in India and has been followed in India for a very long time. So the sages used to practice Ayurveda, meditation, and yoga all together, and which is why Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga and meditation, because together all three stand on the philosophy of bringing balance and bringing the wholesomeness in you in both like all three, mind, body, and spirit aspects.
What does avatar mean? And is that a Hindi word or is it a Sanskrit word?
Yeah, so avatar is a Sanskrit word, and essentially it stands for a description of a being. And in India, some people relate to avatars in terms of gods, or some people relate to avatars in terms of how I mentioned, like Brahma, who is the creator of the world. So it goes back to Hindu mythology, actually.
Is that related to like the Avatar movie, and also that people are using using avatars now on profile?
No. That's different. So avatar, when we touch upon Ayurveda in terms of avatar, what we like to relate to is that when we talk about Dhanvantari, who is the god of Ayurveda, when we talk about Brahma, we have a specific avatar there, and you can get it off the internet, or I can mention the website where you can see that. So this is a scripture of Lord Dhanvantari, who's standing in the middle of the ocean, actually, and has a textbook in one hand, enlightenment. So just depicting Ayurveda in an avatar form, that it's about tapping into your consciousness to attain at the level of your best health.
Right, and you've mentioned this is all about a balance of mind, body, and spirit, and that would be, to me, just the one-person unit. Does this also then travel to the family having one mind, body, and spirit, and then the community having one body, mind, and spirit, and then the world having one body, mind, and spirit, or does it just stay with the person?
It's a very individualized approach, actually, Elliot. Like, there can be certain things that are only tailor-made for me, for example, based on my mind-body constitution, which in Ayurveda we call as doshas. So doshas are basically energy types that are different for each individual, and we tap into our basic mind-body constitution to see where we are at, what we need, what is in balance, and what is out of balance. And then also being in alignment with the nature. Like, if you're eating seasonally, or if you are following different tips and tricks for different seasons, and you're not eating locally. So essentially we are one with the nature, and that connectivity and that being in sync with the nature is one of the key aspects of Ayurvedic medicine as well. But to answer your question, the mind-body constitution and the alignment of mind, body, and spirit is different for each individual based on their mind-body constitution, which they can get to know through a pulse diagnosis by an Ayurvedic practitioner.
You also just mentioned that being in alignment with nature. I've actually always had this thought that I've always lived on the coast. I consider myself a coastal animal, so a lot of times would think more often of wanting to eat coastal animal food like seaweed or scallops or fish. Is that what you meant by meaning with alignment of nature and food?
What I meant essentially is that being in alignment with the nature is to do a lot with the circadian rhythm, which is the rhythm of the nature. So, for example, between 12 and 2, when the sun is at its peak, so that's the time when our digestive fire actually replicates the circadian rhythm, and so our digestive fire is the strongest at that point of time, which is why you must have heard a lot of people saying, oh, make lunch your largest meal of the day. And this is the science behind it, because your fire is strong enough to digest and metabolize all of that because it's at its peak. So that's what I meant when I said in alignment with the nature. By the end of the day, post 5 or 6 p.m., usually people these days are in a fight and flight mode throughout the day. But after 5 and 6 p.m., like the nature, we are also ready to rest it out for the day. But we don't essentially give that to our bodies and mind. We are always spiking up there. So aligning your routine with that of the nature can bring a lot of balance into our life, which I think is missing in this era.
And also I would think when you live in a climate like Queensland, and India is a huge country, so there's many climates, when it's 35 out and you're trying to live as if it's 20 degrees and do 9 to 5 work, doesn't it make more sense to say, look, I'm not going to fight this if you could, and do your work at 2 in the morning?
No, actually, the thing is that at night, you mentioned, doing it at 2 in the morning, that's actually the time when you need the rest. So if the temperature, like you mentioned, is 35 degrees outside and you are working in like an environment that is 18 degree or something like that, what you would do is you would try to balance your body in a way that it is like in the middle. So when you're sitting in a completely air-conditioned office and it is 35 degrees outside, you still want to stay warm by covering yourself up or having a glass of warm water. So you're maintaining that equilibrium with the temperature that you're in right now. And then when you're stepping out, it's hot. You can go for a walk by the beach to maintain that balance. So it's cooling for you then.
You mentioned earlier dosha balance. What is that?
Doshas actually in Ayurveda are energies. So basically they're energy types, and they're based off the 5 elements of nature, which is the air, fire, space, water, and earth. And all of these 5 elements actually come together to create these 3 doshas, which in Ayurveda are called Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So Vata you can relate to the air element, Pitta you can relate to the fire element, and Kapha you can relate to the earth element. And each individual has all 3. But what happens is that 1 or 2 can be more dominant than the third one. So working in balance and in sync with what your dosha type can have a huge impact in your life. So for example, someone who is a Vata, so these people have the qualities of air. They're cool, they're dry, and those moody and flowy qualities. So these people you can think of as visionaries, creative people, artists, all of these poets, idealists. These people have a very flowy and creative energy, and essentially like the wind, quite unpredictable. And then when I think of Pittas, so they have this fire element in them. So they have that leader-like qualities, CEOs, lawyers, or this focused in life with like a tunnel vision. Those are your Pittas. And then earth, if you compare the qualities of a Kapha to a earth, it's people with grounded energy, cool energy, solid, smooth. So like a very motherly energy, you know, they get along with everyone, they have a very agreeable personality. So these are the 3 doshas in Ayurveda, and through a pulse diagnosis, an Ayurvedic practitioner can help you understand yours, and also can see what dosha is out of balance, because out of balance doshas also give out a lot of symptoms. Small example, fire. So if your pitta is out of balance, what can you relate to with the fire? You know, it's kind of like the heat building up and erupting like a volcano. So things like irritation on the skin, rosacea, heartburn, inflammation, acidity, all of these are symptoms of excessive pitta or fire in your body. And in your mind, this can come up as snapping at anyone, very quickly losing your temper, getting easily triggered and frustrated. So we make a very tailored and personalized plan for that person, knowing, oh, his fire is out of balance. What do I do for him? I give him more cool, calming activities, food, herbs, lifestyle treatments. So that's how Ayurveda works essentially. Very personalized, very tailor-made, and going to the root of the problem rather than focusing on symptoms like, okay, you have red skin. Yeah, but why do you have the red skin? That's what we go into.
So how can someone find their dominant nature? Like, is it via birth date or website?
So you essentially find that out through a pulse diagnosis, and the pulse diagnosis in Ayurveda is actually quite different to that of what you must have heard in a Western medicine. So pulse diagnosis is very deep knowledge, and it's actually like having 7 layers of pulses to understand the functioning of your body, your balances and outer balances. So consulting an Ayurvedic practitioner is definitely going to be the first thing that you can do to understand your doshas. Other than that, you can also, if you want, go to our website, which is the ayurvedicwellnesscenter.com.au, and download a dosha quiz from there. And you can take that quiz and get an idea of what your mind-body constitution is, or what your dosha is.
With Ayurvedic medicine, how are the main differences with Western medicine? I'm speculating here with Western medicine in an overview way that it's more cause and effect. They look at eczema. Okay, here's a script for some cream. Here's this, fix the problem. So just like problem, solution. I don't know if that's what it is. So how are they different from each other or the same?
Yeah, so you're somewhat right, Elliot. Actually, the thing is that Ayurveda and Western medicine are 2 very different approaches to healthcare, and each has its own set of beliefs and practices. So it's not like they're ever in competition with each other. But with Ayurvedic medicine, the key to perfect health, according to the medicine, is that we go into the root of the problem. So like you just mentioned, with eczema, why do you have these rashes? Why do you have itching? Yes, we do give you some symptomatic treatment, but more than that, we focus on going to the root of the problem. However, what I also feel like with Ayurveda, it's this complete healing system of medicine and the philosophy and way of life, because you need to have a balance between your emotional, physical, spiritual, all these aspects to have good overall health. A lot of people have sleep issues, and I'm not able to sleep at night. Okay, what has changed in your life in the past 1 year maybe since you're experiencing that? Oh, my work has been stressful, this is happening, that is happening. So essentially essentially, there's nothing wrong with their nervous system that their sleep is being affected. It's that imbalance in their nervous system which is triggered due to some stressor. So figuring that out and then giving them various treatments, herbs, changes to get them to ground themselves is going to help them get better sleep rather than just popping a sleeping pill and going to sleep. Like I mentioned, root cause of the problem and not just the symptoms. Another thing that for me stands out with Ayurveda is that it has a very personalized approach to the individual and not the disease. Whereas with Western medicine, it's mostly like they use the one-size-fits-all approach to treatment and side effects, like you mentioned, due to like different pharmaceuticals. So Ayurveda has no harmful side effects. So that is one of the biggest things that stood out for me and motivated me to study into this medicine.
Yeah, that's actually the perfect segue to my next question. So I was actually going to ask you, are doctors given a license by a medical board, and how does one actually study Ayurvedic medicine in India?
Yeah, so people, who wish to pursue and become an Ayurvedic practitioner have to go through a lot of years of hard work and study. And how that works is that we do a 5-year course in BAMS, which is Bachelor's in Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery, on a UG level. And it is a 5-year full-time course. And after that, you have to do a 1-year compulsory internship in Ayurvedic clinic, hospital, or maybe even a Western medicine hospital as well. And if you want to take steps further and study more, you can do your master's, which is your MD. I had done it as well, which is a 3-year full-time course where you prepare a thesis with lectures, practical knowledge, and all of that. So essentially like 9 years of studying. And the license is given to us by CCIM, which is the Central Council of Indian Medicine. And this was set up in 1971 under the Ministry of Ayush, and the Indian Medical Central Council Act in 1971 set this up to monitor higher education Indian systems of medicine like Ayurveda and give license to doctors once they meet all of the requirements. So then they can practice it.
What would a typical session be like for diagnosing someone in Ayurveda? Does someone just go in and you look at them generically, or does someone go in continuing with the eczema situation like, I've got this? So what are the steps that you go through?
An Ayurvedic consultation is definitely not like your regular round to the modern medical clinic. We go like really deep by talking to a person, probing all aspects of their life, from their sleep routine, dietary habits, personal worries, professional space, the level of physical activeness that they have in their life. So it's quite intense with a lot of questions. And we start by doing a pulse diagnosis, which helps us determine the mind-body constitution of the person and the individual. And then we get to know their state of imbalance and the vitality and how their immune system is, how the organ functioning is. So all of that is done through a pulse diagnosis. And like I had mentioned, it's not the regular pulse diagnosis like we do in Western medicine. We also do tongue diagnosis, and Ayurveda actually believes that tongue is not just an organ of taste, but it's a strong tool for diagnosis. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but try getting up in the morning and noticing your tongue. It might have a white coating there. So that really depicts that, okay, there is some sort of toxicity or ama, which is the Sanskrit word for you, in the body or in the digestive tract that is coming out and showing up on your tongue. So it reflects an entire map to the body, your tongue, and reflects its overall health. So we do all of that. And then we provide all the wide variety of treatments and therapies that we do, like a detox or different herbs, self-care routine, food choices, movement, yoga, meditation practices. All of this is given as a one personalized treatment and wellness plan to get the individual at the best state of health.
And Wikipedia, again, I'm sorry I'm using that as a source, it mentioned that 80% of the population of India use Ayurvedic medicine. Can you tell us how that might have impacted your family in India? Because I know that you came from India initially, and Indian households in general. Is it like a feng shui in Chinese?
Actually, my story is quite interesting. I come from a family of Ayurvedic practitioners, so I was interested in Ayurveda from a very young age, and concepts of Ayurveda are used on a daily basis back home. So it can be the use of different spices, or it can be for us having a routine, which like I mentioned was waking up at a certain time, sleeping at a certain time, having your dinner 2 hours before sleeping, all these little things, eating locally, seasonally, not having too much of frozen processed foods, and smallest things, tongue scraping in the morning was big in my house, because if you scrape your tongue first thing in the morning, like I had just talked to you about, you scrape out all of that armor or toxicity that is stuck on the layer of your tongue after the entire night that your body has digested and processed all the foods, emotions, thoughts, all of that. So that was big at my home. We used to wake up, have a glass of warm water to start up our day, because that essentially kickstarts your digestive system. So these are the little things that every household, almost 80% of the people in India, and we have a population of 1.4 billion, I guess. So you can imagine all of these people are actually doing all these little things on a daily basis. And especially during COVID, it was really big when people went to Ayurveda full on. They started having these decoctions to boost immunity, which could be, made up of tulsi, which is holy basil, can be made up of a bit of ginger, black pepper, all of these spices, turmeric, anti-inflammatory, again, very good for your immune system. It's big in my home having a warm glass of milk with a bit of turmeric and cinnamon at night. It helps you fall asleep better. It's anti-inflammatory, boosts immunity. So these are the little things that everyone follows in Indian households. It's really not like feng shui, but more like a way of life.
Is Ayurvedic medicine primarily a cultural addition, or is Western medicine the primary medicine in India? And are the Ayurvedic practices practiced in India's mainstream hospitals like in Delhi, Mumbai and so on?
Yes, they definitely are practiced in mainstream hospitals. And the thing with both these medicines is that we're not competing, I'll be honest with you. So Ayurveda, yes, has been practiced for the longest time in India, and a lot of people still go to Ayurveda as a primary medicine. But sometimes what happens is that for things like I have an acute problem or there's an emergency, 100% we will definitely go to a mainstream hospital and get ourselves admitted or do all of those things that we do in a Western practice or a Western medicine. But I believe that both Ayurveda and Western medicine, when practiced hand in hand, can have really good results for the betterment of the community or the individual. And that's why it's like something that people do in India is like, okay, I want to do Ayurveda as a preventive system of medicine and maintain my balance on a day-to-day basis. But yes, I've had a fall, I've gotten a fracture, 100% I will go to a Western medicine hospital and get myself treated.
And so what are some of the herbs and oils that are used in the medication therapy? And I've often heard of tulsi, both as a name and also, I guess, as a type of basil, I think. Can you talk about how important that is, or is that based on a tulsi? Is that a god as well, or goddess? And lastly, in this mix, I've read that there's some toxic medicals that are used. Why would that be?
To answer about tulsi, yes, tulsi is considered a very sacred plant in Ayurveda, and it's treated like a god in India especially. So we also pray to tulsi, but it's also deep because tulsi actually is a beautiful herb that great properties like basil. Even in Australia, I've seen like it's used quite widely. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. It's very cooling, soothing, and has a good impact on the gut as well. So very widely used in India for sure. And also some of herbs, if I want to talk about, firstly, I just want to let you know and everyone who's listening know as well that all the herbs that especially we use here at the Ayurvedic Center are TGA approved. So TGA is a Therapeutic Goods Administration, and they are like Australia's government authority evaluating, assessing and monitoring products that are defined as therapeutic goods, which includes medicines as well. So it's very closely monitored like that. And if I have to talk about a few classic herbs, I'm going to start off by talking about Brahmi. So Brahmi is a herb that is used widely in Ayurveda. It's very useful to nourish the system and it's rich in antioxidants. And to be a little bit more in detail, in Sanskrit, it actually stands for that which expands awareness. So it's a brain enhancer, has a great role in memory and concentration, and it's valued for its purifying and balancing influence in Ayurveda. And another of a classic herb in Ayurveda is ashwagandha. Botanical name is Botania somnifera. It is also very well known for its tonic and rejuvenating effect. And because of this influence of the herb on the nervous system as well, it is commonly used by people who complain of fatigue and just a general sense of ungroundedness. So, however, always important to consult a practitioner before starting these herbs because it's a very tailor-made approach. So you need to know what's best for your body type or your imbalance. And to talk about oils, like you had asked me, we do a lot of treatments here at the Ayurvedic Wellness Center, and these treatments can be composed of different oils that are used. So one of them is Bala Ashwagandha oil, and I just spoke about ashwagandha as a herb as well. Ashwagandha oil, when used externally for maybe a massage or abhyanga, it helps promote healthy muscle building, vitality, energy because of its rejuvenating properties. Another one, since we were talking about eczema, neem oil. It's used externally for massage. It's a very cooling oil and a detoxifier for the body. So like eczema, it's very beneficial for any heat-related skin irritation.
Okay, so how can listeners find out about your website? I know you mentioned it briefly before, but what's your website so people can find out more?
It's Ayurvedic Wellness Center, AYURVEDIC, Wellness, WELLNESS, and Center, CENTRE.com.au. You can look it up. You can find a dosha quiz there. You can book in for consult with the doctor or treatment. So, yeah, all of that is out there.
You would do that also by teleconference because we're up in Brisbane, or do you have a branch here in Brisbane?
Yeah, so we do Zoom consults, Elliot, for a lot of our clients, maybe in Melbourne as well, Queensland, all of the places. So we can do that. What I would recommend as well is if someone wants to visit a practitioner face-to-face in Brisbane, I have one suggestion. So you can go to Dr. Ajit, who is with Surya Ayurveda, and he's also a BMS doctor and is really well known for his passion towards Ayurveda as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing this. Just touching on it, it's huge, the topic.
Wealth of information, Deepika.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I could go for 2 hours, but, it's just this vast knowledge that is just out there for people to tap into.
We might talk to you again in the future, probably.
Oh, amazing.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And that was Dr. Deepika Kaushal, an Ayurvedic doctor from Ayurvedic Wellness Center, introducing us to the principles of traditional Indian Ayurvedic medicine.